Hey guys, thanks for joining me today. I am so honored to interview the man, the myth, the legend, Dr. Dan Schumaier. He's the inventor of the drying store and the founder of Ear Technologies. Stay tuned. All right, thanks guys for joining us. I'm here joined with one of my very good friends, Dr. Dan Schumaier. He's the owner and founder of Ear Technology Corporation. And before I really get into it, I want to really say thank you, Dan, for joining us. I actually met you back years ago. It's probably been almost close to 20 years now at the American Auditory Society in Scottsdale, Arizona, when I was a student volunteering when Wayne Staub, who I know you and I are both good friends with, he's actually my audiology mentor. He introduced us, and you were there every year at the Auditory Society. And the reason why I'm thanking you is because as a student, you were very welcoming, and you really made me feel like I was at home with friends instead of a student volunteering and running around. And every single year, I always look forward to seeing you. So thank you for not only being a gentleman, but doing that to me.
Well, it's been a pleasure, and it's you've always had so much enthusiasm about everything you've done, and I've really enjoyed knowing you through the years. So you bring a lot to our profession.
Well, so do you, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. But you actually, before we dive into all of that, you have two daughters. You have Stephanie and you have Sarah. Sarah,
Yes,
who I know, she actually has a private practice, which I know you work with her in, and she's actually part of our AudBoss group, and she posts periodically, and we appreciate that. Tell us about the private practice side of things. How did you get into the private practice side?
well, after I got out of my PhD program at Michigan State University, all my life I wanted to teach at a university, and I taught for 2 years and started a graduate program down here in East Tennessee. But after teaching, I really enjoyed teaching, but I couldn't stand the bureaucracy.
Right.
And so in 1970, end of 71, 72, I decided to go into private practice. Well, back in those days, there were very few people in private practice. Most people worked for the universities, or they worked for the government, the VA. So I teamed up with a couple of physicians, and I went into private practice under a separate name, and worked with them for about 10 years. And I don't know if you ever remember a program called about being rolled over by an elephant, but there was a time when the physicians tried to think they could do better. I was making too much money, and so we separated. And my practice has just grown and grown and grown. And when I went into private practice, I did a couple of things. One, I was like the second in the country to dispense hearing aids. A lot of the new audiologists now, when they think about ASHA used to say, "Oh, that's unethical to do that." And so things have changed a lot. But I was ready. My brother was an attorney, and I was ready with a big lawsuit. So they never did sue me. And but they did get a guy out in California. So I started dispensing hearing aids, doing industrial hearing conservation also in 92, and then also doing diagnostics. And so I worked with some physicians for about 9 years. Then we went our separate ways. My practice has continued to grow. We do probably 1,000 hearing aids or more a month or a year, out of one office. We've got a couple offices. We do about 300 and something industrial companies as far as industrial hearing conservation.
Right.
And we still do a lot of diagnostics. So we're pretty heavily involved. And along the way, I came up with some new products that I thought we needed in the field. I remember when I first started with the old hearing aids, they'd go off and people bring them in and we'd say, put them in a bag of rice or put them in something else. And so I invented some products called Drying Store. And we sell drying stores all over the world.
Yep.
We eliminated problems with hearing aids as far as going bad, but we cut down the failure rates due to moisture by about 70%.
Wow.
And we were at that time, we also started using the UV-C bulbs. That's before it became popular with this pandemic.
You guys were at one point the largest purchasers of UV-C bulbs.
We were the largest distributors of UV-C bulbs in the United States. So
amazing.
And our practice with Ear Technology, I started a company called Ear Technology. It's continued to grow. We've got offices overseas now. We sell worldwide. And we've continued to develop products that are useful, not only for my practice, but also for other people.
Right. And we're going to touch on those in just a few minutes, because I want to, before we even get there, I want to talk a little bit more about your creativity and your inventing. You've been creating, we've been talking about Drying Store, but you also created the Clik, the trans-ear hearing device, which actually, believe it or not, we were just talking about it a couple of weeks ago. Somebody posted, hey, what was that device that sat kind of, the earpiece sat deep in the ear and transferred over? You're always inventing and creating, and you have a handful of patents. It's not even a handful. Can you talk about the patents of the
worldwide? I've got about 235.
200. Oh my gosh.
So,
I mean, I've never created or applied for a patent, but I was involved with a company a few years ago. They were doing this process. It's not easy. I mean, how do you come up with 200?
well, it's kind of one of those things. Once the first patent I ever applied for, I was turned down, and I didn't know any different,
Right.
And it's just to have some tenacity to keep going after it. And once you learn the process, you can kind of do things. Right now, we've got patents that are being issued for lighted ear curettes. We've got them on more sanitizing equipment. We've got them on a product that's called AllClean for sanitizing headphones now.
Yeah,
and
I think I saw that, right? You showed
yeah,
me
you
that.
did see it. I had that out at the last meeting in Denver, I think it was, or wherever we were.
You're so busy, you don't remember where you were. It was
Yeah, no,
over. Yeah, it's during
it
the
becomes a
pandemic.
little of a blur after a while. But anyway, we still have products out there, and what we've tried to do is create things to make practices grow. Now, my practice has continued. This pandemic hasn't bothered us one bit.
Yeah.
We have stayed very busy, but it's because we market in a certain way. And that's what a lot of audiologists need to understand. You can't market like you used to.
Right.
This business has changed. And there's a book out. I don't know if you've ever read this book, but it's by Spencer Johnson. I'll hold it up there if you can see it. It's called Who Moved My Cheese?
Yep, absolutely.
And I think this is a great little book. I think audiologists really need to take a look at it, because basically what the book says, if you keep doing things the same way you've been doing them, you're gonna finally, your cheese supply is gonna dry up. You won't have it anymore. Somebody's moved it, and that's been happening in this business. And people need to realize, if we keep doing things like we've been doing them, you're not going to have a business in the future. We've seen it happen with people that used to have filling stations, independent filling stations. There are no more independent filling stations. Most of them are owned by oil companies now. And the same things happen in the hearing aid business. We've got big companies that are buying up practices because they know that's where the profit is. They control what's happening. And then we also have big businesses that are now selling online. And competing with you. Because we've got the technology's been so great now, you can adjust these things right over the line.
Yeah, you've got corporate consolidation, you've got third-party payers that are, undercutting, our services and fee schedules. And absolutely right, the direct-to-consumer stuff is it's a little disheartening when you see some of your favorite, partners that you've been working with for years and years.
But there's going to be a certain amount of that, but you can compete with those people.
Absolutely, 100%.
But you've got to have your name out there, and that's why a lot of our products, we actually engrave or print the names like on a drying store. Of the practice. So the last thing that people see at night is the name of the practice in lights, and the first thing they see in the morning is the name of the practice on the lids. So they remember you. We've got.
I'm sorry, it's a good thing you don't take photos of us, because that would probably scare our people.
That's right, Mike. But you put your logo on there.
Yeah, thank you.
But we do things like that, and that's what keeps people in mind. And when you buy a set of tires at a tire store, they say, come back in 4,000 miles and we'll rotate the tires for free.
Right.
Well, they're doing that not for free, because they know they want you to continue to come back, and eventually they're going to say, you need new tires.
Where else are you going to go?
We need to have the same thing. We need people being able to come back into our office for different items we have. If they're going on vacation, they need to have a dry caddy UV to take with them. And that dry caddy UV has dry disc inside of it that they have to buy from you. They need to have nano cleans that they can buy from you. They need to have, the dry store, if it's got ones with a brick in it, from you. If they've got the rechargeables, they need to have our new one that they can hand from you. So from an office is what I'm saying.
Right, right.
And that keeps people coming back to your office all the time. So much of what we've done now is kind of letting people go. And the only time they come back is when something goes wrong.
Correct.
And that presents a wrong image. You know, only time I come back here is when this hearing aid breaks.
That's
You
right.
know,
And
that's not the way to do things.
And one of the things we do in our practice, which I think works really well, and I've mentored and consulted with a lot of new owners and practitioners, is we always set up the next appointment. So our
Sure.
patients come in, whether it's 3 times a year or twice a year. So minimum twice a year, we set up that next appointment. Every time someone's walking out our door, they stop at the front, they're making their next appointment, which is 6 months out. And we always tell them, hey, everything might be going well. We just want to check everything out, make sure everything's running fine. And I think that goes along with what you were mentioning.
That's exactly right. And,
Yeah. So you've been doing this for, over 50 years, right? You've been in the industry for over 50 years, almost 50 years, excuse me. You're not that old. You don't even look like you have been in the industry for 50 years. And I know you talked about some of the, what I'm going to call missteps of our national organizations, or at least the one, which I'm not going to go into details today, but the idea is that over that past 49, 50 years, what are some of the biggest changes that you've seen in the profession, in the industry?
Well, I think the biggest change is probably in the technology we have now.
Sure.
And that's, I remember when we started off with hearing aids, I sold a lot of body hearing aids.
Yeah.
Because that's what we had to have.
Yep.
And then I remember when we first came out with the first in-ear hearing aid from Stark, and wow, this is something. And then Audiotone came out with a hearing aid, it was a big behind-the-ear aid, an A31, I think. And it had 3 controls on it. I said, I've got everything I need. I can control the MPO, I can control the low cut and high cuts.
Yep.
That's all I need, But now we've got hearing aids that we can do so much more with. They interact with your phone. The adjustments we have. If you look at the permutations, there's thousands of them now.
Right.
And we can actually give people better hearing.
Yep.
And that's what it's about. But it's our interaction with our patients that's important.
Right.
We don't want to turn that away so it's a YouTube experience. We want to turn it away so it's a personal experience when people come in. And when they come into your office, the first person they meet is your receptionist.
Correct.
And they've got to feel comfortable there. How many times have you gone into a physician's office and they kind of ignore you? It's terrible. It's a terrible feeling.
Yep.
When people come into our office, they feel welcome. They know our receptionist.
Right.
And they feel very comfortable. So we have to do business a little bit differently. And but my business has thrived. It continues to thrive because of what we do. And that's what we have to do in the future to make our association with our patients successful.
Absolutely.
I noticed online the other day, people were concerned about, what they call themselves. You introduce yourself as doctor. I read that and I thought, this is crazy. I don't know if you read that online. It's on Facebook, I think. Time after time, people say, "Oh, I like to be called doctor." The only thing doctor is good for is you want to get a good seat at a restaurant. So we want our people to come in. When I go out there, I introduce. They know who I am.
Yeah.
Because they're coming in. But I'll say, "Hi, I'm Dan Schumaier." And they feel warm right away. I want to know about their family, how they're doing.
Yeah.
And when they come in, and I actually in our notes, I always write something about them.
Yeah.
I can't remember their names, but I certainly can remember if I look in there and say, "Oh, this guy likes to go camping." Then we talk about that. And that's a personal feeling that people have when they're in our office. And Sarah does the same thing.
I don't know if you were listening in, but I just 3 days ago, I think it was Monday, actually 4 days ago, one of my, I have 2 AD students who are rotating through right now. And I just told that one student that you can write notes about your patients to remind you. Now, my memory is every time I see them, I may not remember them by name, but as soon as I see them, I get a rush of information in my brain. Okay, this patient, family member, blah, 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 whatever. But you can put that information, of course, never put negative information. I always tell my students, don't ever write PETA, which is pain in the ass. You don't want to write that in the patient start. But, the idea is that you can put little notes to remind yourself on how, what you can touch on, because I think a lot of what we do is relationships. It's relational. It's not a transactional a situation. So, knowing those touch points and making that connection with your patients is extremely, extremely important. So 100% with you on that. The drying store. I want to jump into the drying store and some of the UV stuff that I know you know a lot more about than I do. And I've sold, I don't know how many, I can't even tell you how many drying stores, drying store globals, drying store twos. the Zephyrs, even the Zephyrs, which were more recent, and even some of the little cans. Actually, we bought some of those too. Tell us a little bit about Dry and Store, how it works, why it's so popular, and why we should actually look into it.
Well, first of all, moisture still, I don't care whether they say our hearing aids are nano-coated or not. Moisture is the leading, moisture and wax is the leading cause of hearing aid failures. And by drying a hearing aid every night, we do a couple of things. We dry the wax so it doesn't tend to clog up the microphones and the receivers as much. And also we cut down the repairs due to electronics and moisture. They don't get along very well. A lot of the hearing aids we're doing now are receivers in the canal. The humidity in the canal, average canal, is about 65%. So, and we're mostly concerned about high frequencies. Okay, when most of these people have high frequency hearing loss, we're fitting. And when you load up the diaphragms with moisture, guess what it cuts down? It cuts down the high frequencies. So you can sell the best hearing aid in the world, but if it isn't performing as it should be, it's not going to do very well. So Dry and Store uses different things. We use heat to break the surface tension of water molecules. We use air to move that movement. Some of our products have got dry bricks in them. The dry bricks grab the water molecules. And that's how I explain it to people when regular hearing aids with the batteries, we put it in here at night. A heater comes on, it breaks the surface tension of the water molecule, a fan comes on, and then the air moves over these hearing aids one time a second. And water molecules like to go from an area of high concentration to low. So they go into the dry brick and it dries them out. In addition, we've got a UV-C bulb in there.
Right. And
the UV-C bulb, a lot of people have itching in their ears or the reinfections. That kills the bacteria that causes that kind of a problem. So we sanitize and dry. We've got products that are passive dryers too, where we just have a very intense molecular sieve in the product that actually, when you put the hearing aid in there, those are the ones you're talking about, the cans,
right.
It really sucks up a lot of moisture. And when I'm talking about a lot of moisture, a lot of these things will suck up overnight about a third of a bottle cap of moisture, which is more than you'd ever have in a hearing aid. Wow. We now have a new product out called Dry Caddy UV-C. Works on battery. And if you're going on a camping trip or anywhere, you put them in there, the UV-C light comes on, sanitizes the product, and we also dry them in there. And we've got our newest one coming out now, which is for the lithium-ion batteries. Where you can actually put because lithium-ion batteries you can't put in high heat. Right. So we put the hearing aids into a product that it doesn't have a desiccant in it, but it's got mild heat. We only go up to about 85 degrees Fahrenheit, but we've got a fan. So the charger fits in there. It's also got a UV-C bulb. So you do dry the products and you sanitize them. And what's neat about these products, we can also label them with the practice name on there.
Right, customized.
So that's the last thing that people see at night, like I mentioned before, and the first thing they see in the morning.
We like when patients think about us.
That's right.
What about, of course, the elephant in the room is COVID-19. Do you have any thoughts about, or maybe some knowledge about UV on the actual virus itself? Is there?
Yeah, I sure do. We do testing different ways with our products. One way we actually use a meter, a UV-C meter, and it tells us of all the viruses and bacterial kill, how long the light has to be on, and that's depending on the duration and the intensity of the bulb. Okay. Other ways we do it, we send them out, and it's very expensive to do it. I've probably this year we've spent, I don't know, maybe $100,000 on, maybe not that much, maybe $80,000 just on private labs that we send our products to have tested to tell us what it's going to kill.
Right.
Our newest product is one that's for headphones, which is really neat. We've always wiped those off with alcohol, not always, but here with the pandemic. Now we've got a device that the headphones and the response buttons or whatever you have, you can put in there and press a button. In 3 minutes, everything's dead.
3 minutes, so you can do that between patients.
Oh, easy, yeah. And you know what? I show my patients that.
Yeah.
And when I take them out, I said, this is a product that we use to clean these headphones, and they like that.
Absolutely, because they, it not only engages them in the process, but makes them feel more comfortable.
Sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
especially nowadays, we're wiping everything down and patients walk in and the chair's still wet. It's just interesting to see the transition that we've had to go
Well,
through.
the UVC bulb does a great job, and as far as killing, different pathogens.
Right.
And some it kills better than others, but it depends on, again, on the length of time that it's exposed to it. Some of our products, like our Dry and Store Global, even kills down to the Niger, which is really a tough one to kill. But our bulb is intense, and it's on for about 3 minutes, and so it does a great job.
I think I'm going to get a big UVC shower here so I can really.
Well, they're coming out with a new UVC that's called far field UVC.
Okay.
Yeah, the problem with UVC, when we design our products, you got to make sure that people can't look at them with their naked eye, because it'll burn you. It'll burn your skin. It'll burn your eyes. But the far field works in a 222 nanohertz range.
Okay.
And they're putting them into restaurants, and they're going to put them in ceilings and places, and it will not penetrate through your pupils, your eyes, or the skin.
Okay.
But it'll still kill a lot of pathogens on the surface. So you're going to see that in the future. It's called far field UVC.
So I should wait before I go and burn my skin off.
Yeah, don't go do it. Okay. Don't try it yourself.
I won't. I'll come to you before I ever think of doing any of those things. Hey, listen, you're definitely an entrepreneur. You're an inventor. You're a creator. You're a leader. Of course, in the industry, really appreciate everything you've done. Do you have any, as an entrepreneur and business owner, any advice for our, not only odd bosses, but again, any audiologist that's watching?
Well, I guess the main advice is you need to change the way. If you think you can just sell $8,000 hearing aids now, and continue doing that, you're gonna fail. You're gonna have to go about how you're selling hearing aids a little bit differently, because you're competing in a totally different market, and that's the same thing that people are finding out with when you look at Amazon. Look what Amazon's done to a lot of the brick and mortar stores.
Right.
We've got a little edge on that, in that we've got a personalization we can put with our products.
Correct.
And that's what we need to do. And
Absolutely.
the products they're complicated, and so we welcome people to come in, and we want to take care of them. We want them to feel like they're welcome, and we want to have products that they have to come back for also.
Yep.
That's the main thing I can tell people now. You got to change the way you're doing things.
Yeah, absolutely correct. And I think, of course, Amazon is still a humongous thing, but they took away from the brick and mortar, but now we're starting to see they're coming back into brick and mortar themselves. I know here in Los Angeles, we have Amazon stores and Amazon fresh grocery stores, which, Warby Parker is another example of, taking the eyeglasses out of brick and mortar, but now they're opening stores everywhere because they've realized, hey, there's still this personalization that needs to be done in this relationship that, needs to be there. And I think maybe that's one of the reasons why Panasonic's hearing aids didn't quite take off. And, some of these other companies, I think they can just go direct to the consumer without that relationship factor. And I think the advantage.
I think you're right. The relationship is important.
It's the biggest.
Very important. But we also need to have products for people that have got hearing losses that aren't very complicated, very mild. They just need a lamp. You need to have that.
Correct.
You need to have products for all different types of problems. In your practice.
And speaking of products, I'm going to put the link in the bio below, of course. In fact, it's going to be right here either under me or under Dan here in just a moment. You'll see the link. So where can people learn more about all your products? We have the websites listed below, but tell us more about where we can learn more.
I guess probably go to Your Technology Corporation.
Yep.
And .com.
You got
and
it.
Our products are all listed right on there. That's the best way to learn.
Yeah, you have a lot of products because you're constantly thinking and coming up with new stuff. So again, I've got the links in the bio below. Hey, we're going to see you in October this year. We're actually going to be on a cruise, the 3rd annual AudBoss Private Practice Summit, and it's almost sold out again. Tell us about what you're going to talk about at the AudBoss Summit.
Well, I'm going to talk about 2 things. I'm going to talk a little bit about sanitation.
Good.
And some of the products and what people can utilize in their practice.
Yep.
And I'm also going to talk about business development.
Perfect.
I love to talk about these things. The last talk I gave, I talked about 19,000 small business hearing aid specialists and audiologists working so hard to keep their businesses small. And so I'm trying to talk a way where they can actually grow their business instead of make them small. So we're talking a little bit about who moved my cheese and what we can do to fight against that.
Well, that's amazing. I really appreciate you, and I look forward to seeing you in October. Everybody, Dr. Dan Schumaier, thank you so much again for joining us. I look forward to seeing you, buddy. And love to the family, okay?
Okay, very good.
All right.
Good
Thank
day.
you very much.
Bye.